The Jordanian government now says it intercepted 8 missiles launched from Iran toward Jordan right now. The U.S. Embassy also alerted the incident just minutes ago. Iran said it was targeting a U.S. base in Jordan. Tell us a little bit about what's going on, because in the past, when Iranians have fired missiles that went towards Jordan, they were designed to continue towards Israel.
That's right, Wolf. And one of the key things to note is this is the area right in here where that U.S. base actually is. So we're talking in that northeastern corner of Jordan. So any type of flight of a missile that would go from Iran into either Israel or Jordan would basically take the same flight path. That flight path, would probably go across the area where that Al-Mufawwaq air base is, which is the one that the U.S. uses quite a bit. There's also, of course, activity near Amman, Jordan, which is right close to that point right there on the map. So Jordan is clearly in the path if Israel were to be attacked, but it looks like what the Iranians were trying to do was attack the U.S. base in Jordan at this point.
Right now, the Iranians are accusing the U.S. of committing what they're calling blatant war crimes by striking 2 bridges on a railway route. Does this signal an expansion to various civilian targets inside Iran?
So this is a key point right here, Wolf. Normal targets are the ones that you see right here along the Persian Gulf coast. And these targets are, quite frankly, a really important part of the U.S. military effort. But that railroad bridge that you're talking about, that was right here in Aqala, Iran. And when you look at what is happening up there, this is on the railroad route that goes to Mashhad, Iran, which is right here. And this is where the Ayatollah, the late Supreme Leader, is going to be buried today. So any travel that pilgrims or mourners made from Tehran to Mashhad was through Aqala. So the whole idea was to hit this railway bridge and knock out what is basically a dual-use facility. They can use it obviously for civilian purposes, but also military. But in this particular case, it looks like this is more of a political statement to basically tell the Iranians that we can cut off their transportation on either side, whether it's military transportation or civilian transportation.
We've been checking the military presence that the U.S. now has. There are 19 U.S. military naval ships in the northern Arabian Sea right now. You can see some of them right there behind you. Tell us what's going on right now with this buildup.
Yeah, so what you're seeing here is you have everything from destroyers to, of course, the aircraft carriers, like you have Pamela Brown on the Lincoln, which is one of those aircraft carriers. We have amphibious assault ships, which are designed to basically work in the way in which you would actually mount an amphibious assault against a coastline. You have the cruisers that are part of the naval inventory, and then you have transport docks, dock landing ships, and a sea base. So this would be the type of equipment that you would need to go in and go after a target like, for example, Karg Island right here. You would use those kinds of vessels to go after Karg Island or possibly any of the other areas in the Strait of Hormuz that you would potentially want to take as part of an accelerated military effort in this area.
And I assume the Iranians have been targeting a lot of those U.S. naval vessels that are in the area right now.
Yes, in fact, one of the key things, and Pamela also mentioned this, is aircraft carriers are, of course, very much a high-value target, and they target those. But one of the key things also is to have their protection there. So those would be the guided missile destroyers and any of the assault ships and cruisers. Those become key elements in any type of action that the Iranians would take. And we have to remember that when you look at the geography of all of this, yes, Iran is getting attacked right here along the coastline, but the key thing is this: our ships are basically in this area right down here, and the fact that they are here means that they are vulnerable to some of Iran's missiles.
I know you've said you support new U.S. strikes on Iran because it overplayed its hand. What do you make of what we're seeing over the last two nights alone? Because it's clearly intensifying.
Look for further kinetic action, Wolf, and I don't see this quieting down anytime soon. On the other hand, I don't see it escalating to the point of U.S. boots on the ground or seizing Karg Island. So I think we're in for a pretty bumpy period here. in which the Trump administration is going to use bombs. They're going to use blockade. Watch for that blockade to come back. And they're going to hope to put economic pressure on Iran. I think that's why that railway bridge was just dropped, for example. And by doing so, they are hoping to get the Iranians back to the table. But buckle up for the next few weeks.
And what do you make of this latest development, Iran coming out and saying it fired ballistic missiles at a U.S. military base in northern Jordan, where the U.S. has built up a significant presence during this conflict with Iran?
Unsurprising. Clearly, the Iranians still have, let's say, 30% of their pre-war ballistic missiles. They're going to use them sparingly. Note the numbers here. The Iranians have fired 10, 15 missiles. We dropped almost 200 bombs. Watch for us to use volume. Watch for them to use more precise signaling, hence Jordan showing, as you're showing on the map, how far they can reach with these ballistic missiles. Clearly a signal, not just to the United States, but to the Arab world as well.
And to Israel as well, because normally in the past when Iran has launched missiles towards Jordan, they're designed to continue from Jordan and go into Israel and hit various targets in Israel. But in this particular case, it looked like they were going for that U.S. military base in Jordan and not necessarily directing those missiles towards Israel. Is that right?
That is absolutely correct. And let's face it, Israel itself is a hardened target. It's the toughest air defense system to break into. So when you have fewer missiles to expend, like the Iranians do, look for them to go after softer targets, places where they can create an element of surprise and have a dramatic outcome without effectively wasting missiles by simply showering them on Israel, which, believe me, can protect itself quite well.
Yeah, Israel has that Iron Dome system, which is very, very effective against incoming missiles. Some experts have suggested that skirmishes between the U.S. and Iran were to be expected, partly because the terms of that 14-point ceasefire deal were very vague, open to interpretation, and did not resolve the core issues. Do you agree with that view? Did you anticipate that the Iranians would try to create more leverage during the 60-day ceasefire window?
I did. And I think most analysts who've been watching Iran would tell you two huge pieces of unfinished business. One is the enriched uranium, and the second one is what's occurring in Lebanon, just north of Israel, with Hezbollah. So until those two issues reach some kind of closure, some kind of specific agreement, look for this tit for tat kind of warfare to go on and on. Let me conclude on that thought, though, Wolf, by saying I'm still cautiously optimistic this thing can get back in the box and get back to negotiations. And the reason is Team Trump wants a deal, and fundamentally Iran wants a deal also. And what they're being offered at this point in terms of unfrozen assets, oil sanctions coming off, potentially $300 billion growth fund, that's a pretty good deal for Tehran. So while I think this will go back and forth for a while, ultimately both sides have incentives to get back to the bargaining table. May take weeks. I don't think it's going to take months and months till we get there.
The U.S. military says it's carried out about 170 strikes over the last 2 nights. So this is an increase by a significant factor of what we have seen here recently. They say they're targeting things like Iranian air defense systems, missiles, drone storage sites, military logistics infrastructure. How are you seeing where we are right now?
Well, first, let me just say I'm really proud of the men and women who are out there on those ships. They've been out for a long time. They're doing a great job, and just seeing that really makes me feel really proud of them. But where we are right now is we're going after the Strait of Hormuz, and the more the Iranians push back at us, the more we take out in the Strait of Hormuz. This is the strategic center of gravity of this operation. So they're very foolish to come back, give us the opportunity to go strike, and we are taking out those targets. Will we eventually get all of the targets out, everything that could hurt shipping? Probably not, but we'll get close to it. We'll take their bargaining leverage down, and that's the way to move forward to some kind of a negotiation. As long as they feel they're totally dominant in the Strait, they have no reason to come to the table, really.
A big part of the question, General, is how far the U.S. would have to go with strikes, because even President Trump, before the MOU was signed, acknowledged that bombs only go so far in negotiating an outcome to the Strait reopening. So what options does the president have to get Tehran to offer those concessions at this point?
Well, first of all, it is about getting the Straits reopened. And so at this point, I would not recommend that we go after energy infrastructure or Karg Island, hold them hostage to further non-compliance by Iran. But step by step, strike by strike, we are reducing Iran's ability to affect shipping through the Gulf. There's a lot going on that we're not seeing. There's things happening underwater. There's reconnaissance. There's other stuff that's going on, and there is a finite target set that we're going after. We're working it every day. We've collected it. We're a long way down the road from where we were when fighting stopped officially like 6 weeks ago, because we never stopped building our target deck. We never stopped watching the Iranians. We never stopped planning on what we could do. So I'm relatively optimistic that this is the right course of action. This will either get the Straits permanently opened or bring the Iranians back into the table to open the Strait. And I think it's perfectly appropriate. The president talks about going after Karg Island and so forth, but right now the center of gravity isn't Karg Island. It's not the Iranian economy. It's the Strait of Hormuz, and it is vulnerable. It's in a fixed location. We have air superiority. We've got other means of striking in there, so they expose themselves. They can be seen, they can be hit, and they can be destroyed.
And how concerned are you about these U.S. bases in Qatar, in Bahrain, in Jordan, in other U.S. allies in the region?
Well, we've had plenty of warning time now to take care of our exposed personnel, so I'm sure we're well protected in there. We don't have people out in the open in those connex-like command centers where we lost our troops there early on in Kuwait. But still, you have to intercept every missile, and maybe one will get through. So yes, there's some concern about this, but the thing is, Brianna, this is a war that was going to happen. It was just inevitable that the Iranians would push this and push this and push this. They still got an enormous missile capacity. They're going to be very hard to move on giving up their nuclear capacity. So I think we're in for quite a struggle here, but the first step in being able to sustain that is to get the Strait of Hormuz open and keep it open.
What is your own opinion? Drop it in the comment section. Let's know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to follow me on this channel by subscribing and turn on the bell so that anytime I publish the next video, YouTube will get you notified. I really appreciate your time for watching. Bye.